Recently, I just got kicked out of Facebook because I exposed a lot of their bullshit. See, I exposed the fact that countries under America's sphere of intimidation are doing that hot. Countries like Honduras have been turned into complete shitholes because of America. Ecuador's doing pretty bad because of America. This guy tried to say that Venezuela would benefit from being under America's sphere of intimidation, but once I pointed out that the only reason South Korea and Japan are doing well is because of China, he got pretty fucking irate. He started saying you're probably anti-Semitic, which is code for you probably know the atrocities that Israel commits. And I said, as a matter of fact, I do. And then I started pointing links talking about how Israel puts people in internment camps. I started posting up links about how Israel uses human shields. So this guy went on a hardcore flagging campaign with a bunch of other people to get me off the site. Talking about harassment and stalking and all this shit and just making shit up. And so I appealed it and they were like, okay, I guess those things are baseless, but if you want your site reinstated, you're going to have to send us some ID and all this bullshit. So while you haven't violated anything, we need some ID to verify who you are, which is complete horseshit. So there you go. Now, the thing is, some of the shit that they flagged is things that he couldn't see, which means that meant the moderators had been going around looking for stuff to flag. And something that a lot of you jackadaddies don't know is that there are a lot of white supremacists working for Facebook. But not just Facebook. Facebook actually outsources its moderators to a company called Cognizant, and there are a few articles done recently, a couple months back, talking about how a lot of these moderators that Facebook pays, a lot of these contracted groups that Facebook pays, these moderators are either connected to or influenced by a lot of the propaganda put on Facebook. So of course you got the BS CIA psyop nonsense like Flat Earth, but then you got dudes who are really watching the 1488 stuff and they're starting to agree. You got people that openly deny the event, which we all feel a certain way about the event, but we're not going to go into the event. But to openly state how you feel about the event is code for letting people know where you stand on everything. Alright? And so you got those guys on board, and when you have those guys on board, what they start doing is they start attacking certain platforms and they start attacking certain groups. So if you're black and you say something that points out the police brutality, judicial inequality, judicial hypocrisy, white supremacy, you're going to get flagged. Even if nothing that you do was wrong, they have certain tactics. So let's say you post up something talking about how a kid got killed by a cop, or a video about a kid got killed by a cop. Even if it doesn't show the gratuitous violence and it falls within the guidelines, what they'll do is they'll just remove it and say, hey, this violates this. While this doesn't violate our policies, it has upset some members of the group of the site and blah 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 yakety schmackety, even if it's on your fucking page and nobody can but your friends can see it. Or they'll just remove a picture of you and your friends and say that it's a copyright violation. It doesn't have to have any copyright. The point is just to get you on a block for a certain amount of days to kill any momentum of your stuff. Another thing they'll do is they'll deactivate your hashtag. These people want to control the narratives. Anti-war protests, anti-war posts, anti-police posts, anything that goes against the establishment is getting flagged. It's getting taken off every time. Every time. That's these guys. That's these people's agenda. A lot of these third-party moderating groups that these websites use is to manufacture consent for things that meet the status quo. That's it. That's it. Serves no other purpose. So if you're coming out here and you're talking about white supremacy, you're gone. If you're coming on there and what the fuck is this guy doing? If you're coming on there and you're talking about anti-war stuff, if you're exposing Assad, you're gone. For example, they took off Walcott and Alex Jones. Both these guys are shills. And everyone knows these clowns are shills. But the thing is, they're using that as a pretext because those idiots aren't the target. The average person is. The average person that says things that they don't like. So they can use the precedent of getting rid of these clowns, like I talked about when Alex Jones got taken off of YouTube. The precedent of taking those clowns off, now they're doing videos together because they're both shills, like I said, they both work for the government, is if anyone does something that they don't like, let's say a black person posts something exposing white supremacy, they'll take them off and say, hey, you're saying some hate speech. You give a good argument how it's not. They go, well, Farrakhan says this and that, and he's anti-Semitic, so you fall in line with him and you're gone. Alex Jones, people, they can use him as an example because what they've done is, the purpose of Alex Jones, even though back in the day he was telling a lot of truth, but as time went on, he got compromised. And now it's an obvious shill. But even back then he had his moments. Now, the purpose of Alex Jones is to make people that call out the government on their bullshit look bad. So he'll take half-truths and he'll just turn them into the most retarded shit ever. But what started happening is you had people like Abby Martin, what the hell's that white dude's name? Steve Corbin, Ryan Dawson. You have these guys out here. Of course, the guy that Princess Hamburger got rid of, Johnny Gatch. You have these guys out here. And so what ended up happening is a lot of these guys would research. They would listen to the crap that Jones is saying. They would listen to the shit, look at it objectively, figure out what's the truth and what's the lie, break it all down, and then start researching the truth and start repeating what they confirm is truth. That led to things like people exposing the fact that Assad didn't gas his own people. As a matter of fact, recently there have been documents released proving that Assad didn't gas his own people. And they're about to do another false flag gas attack, even though everybody knows at this point that those are complete fucking horseshit lies. And so America's been eating so much crow, people exposing Bolton's bullshit tactics, people exposing Kissinger's bullshit tactics, that they're getting sick of it because they want a cookie cutter program on the internet like they have on cable TV, where every narrative is controlled, where 9/11 really looked like it was done by some terrorists with box cutters and not the CIA, Mossad, urban moving systems, and Israelis protecting terrorists from the DA of the state of Florida and shit like that. The district, they don't want people doing that anymore. They want people confused, and their only source of information is from CNN, Fox News, and all those other clowns. So what ended up happening is they're trying to close the ranks, and they're trying to get rid of competition. And that's where this government regulation shit comes in. See, government regulation on paper is fine, but the reality is, when you got guys like Mark Zuckerberg being pro-regulation, that's some horseshit. It's a hat trick. See, here's how it works. They say they're for regulation. They say they're for the government creating standards and all this nonsense, because the corporations are getting pissed off because they're saying that people are inappropriately using their music. If you take like a 2-second snippet of a song and you put it into your video, they're going to use that in their filters to stop the video from being able to be uploaded. Because your political message will be construed to be connected to that music. Or so they say. The reality is it's just a form to censor people. Now, in most situations, people will just find an alternative. But what they do when the regulations come in is you have to have these expensive filters. You have to have these ridiculous legal constraints. And so then it becomes so expensive just to run certain kinds of sites that you're left with no alternative but to just use Dailymotion, YouTube, Vimeo, places that support the status quo. So now you're left with no options, and they can censor you. And since they're still private sites, private companies, the First Amendment doesn't apply, so you can't argue that you have freedom of speech. You understand? So what they're trying to do is they're trying to lock you jack and dandies in with this bogus regulation shit, when in reality, the entire purpose, the aggregate goal, is censorship. They want to control information so that they can go back to warmongering in peace, and everybody's like, oh my god, babies and incubators, even though we know that's a lie. Oh my god, weapons of mass destruction, even though we know that's a lie. Oh my god, he's gassing his own people even though he was winning the war, even though now we know that's a lie. So now we see the patterns, we see the build up. We've got the alternative news sources that actually go there with video cameras, independent journalists that upload stuff and can look at this shit and expose it. They don't want that anymore. So they're closing ranks, man. They're closing ranks and trying to stop people from exposing their bullshit. So don't fall for it. Don't fall for it, because government regulation is not going to protect your speech. Government regulation is going to protect their status quo, their agendas, their continued stratified poverty, continuing to widen the class gap, police brutality, corruption, and a sphere of intimidation that devastates countries like Honduras, that causes problems like they do in North Korea, that covers up crimes like police running prostitution rings, police raping women, police gunning down children, SWAT teams throwing hand grenades in babies' faces. The fact that the justice system is a lie. The fact that a lot of forensic science is BS. That 80% of dogs can't really find drugs when they sniff in cars. That hair tests don't really work. That lie detectors are fake. They don't want people knowing this kind of stuff. You understand? So in the meantime, when we have the chance, we have to expose everything these assholes do. Over and over and over. And when it comes down to it, boy, it's gotta be cleared. Bitch.